Who's the most spoiled person you know? For me, the answer is easy. My cousin Ashley. We're the same age, just 3 months apart, and our moms, being sisters, thought it was the sweetest idea in the world to raise us virtually like twins, imagining it would make us best friends. The whole extended family lived within just a few blocks in the same town, so it was very easy to spend all our time together. In reality, this meant I never got a moment's peace. Wherever I went, Ashley went too. Whatever I had, Ashley had to have, or better. And if I got even a second of attention, she knew how to take it away. One of my clearest early memories is from when we were 5. My mom had invited Ashley's family and my grandma over to celebrate the fact that I'd learned to read my first little chapter book all by myself. I remember sitting on the couch, book in hand, everyone smiling proudly as I began reading my page aloud. But before I could finish the page, Ashley started coughing dramatically, hacking so loud that Aunt Claire rushed to her side with a glass of water. "Poor thing," my grandma clucked, rubbing Ashley's back. By the time the fuss had settled, my book was forgotten. Nobody asked me to keep reading. Ashley sat there with her wide eyes, an innocent smile soaking in the attention. On my 8th birthday, when I leaned in to blow out the candles on my cake, Ashley darted forward and blew them out first. Everyone laughed at the frosting on her chin, my mom explaining she just wanted to join in. I got the leftover candle smoke while she got the applause. But on her birthday, the rules were different. I wasn't allowed anywhere near her cake. Ashley knew exactly what she was doing. If I drew a picture and showed my mom, Ashley would grab crayons and scribble something on top, then burst into tears if anyone scolded her. If I got new shoes, Ashley cried that hers were hurting her feet until her mom bought her a fancier pair. If I was talking to a teacher, Ashley suddenly had an emergency, a stomach ache, a headache, a splinter, and the conversation ended with me standing quietly to the side while she got attention and sympathy. There was a pattern to it, and even as a child I could see it. She didn't just want attention, she needed it. It was like oxygen to her. And she had no shame in manufacturing emergencies to keep herself in the spotlight. If I fell and scraped my knee, Ashley would limp dramatically, claiming her ankle hurt too much to put weight on. If I was sick, Ashley developed a mysterious fever that came and went whenever someone else's eyes turned to me. At family dinners, if I started telling a story, she'd cut in halfway through and somehow twist it into her own. I'd end up sitting there with my fork in my hand, watching everyone laugh at her punchline, while my words disappeared. The grown-ups always excused it. "She just doesn't want to feel left out," Aunt Claire would say, hugging me as a way of asking me to understand. "She'll grow out of it," my grandmother would reassure. But she never grew out of it. Year after year, Ashley found ways to push me into the background. I didn't even have to do anything special. Sometimes just existing seemed enough to make her jealous. One summer when we were 7 or 8, my dad taught me how to ride a bike without the training wheels. It took me a couple of tries, but when I finally wobbled down the driveway, I felt unstoppable. My mom cheered, clapping, calling for my aunt to come see. Ashley came running out first, not with congratulations, but with tears starting to fall. She cried that she'd never learned how to ride, that it was unfair that she felt left behind. Within minutes, my lesson was over, my parents' attention was gone, and Ashley sat on the bike while 3 adults fussed over her. She didn't even try to pedal, she just sat there, smug and satisfied, while I stood by the mailbox with my helmet still strapped on. When I was 9, on the last day of school, we had field games and races outside with parents in the audience during that afternoon. It felt happy, festive. It marked the start of summer vacation, and I channeled all my excitement into the activities. I lined up for the 50-meter dash, Ashley choosing a place beside me, and in spite of not usually being great at sports, I shot off the starting line with a small lead. Ashley, no doubt pushed by her competitiveness, was struggling along beside me, starting to fall behind, when suddenly she was in my path, her steps intersecting with mine. My foot hit hers, we both stumbled, but while I fell hard, she managed to pull out of it and continue on. As I got up several seconds later, I could see her jumping in triumph at the finish line, having taken first place. By the time we hit middle school, I knew this wasn't just a phase. Ashley wasn't going to change. Every birthday, every school event, every small success, I could count on her to twist it, to overshadow me, to turn it into her stage. And every time I thought I might finally have a moment for myself, she made sure to remind me I wasn't allowed to shine as long as she was in the room. Looking back, what bothers me most isn't just Ashley's behavior. It's how everyone let her get away with it. The adults, the teachers, even other kids learned to laugh off her antics. They let her cry, let her fake injuries, let her steal my moments because it was easier than calling her out. Easier to soothe her than to risk a scene. And so the responsibility fell on me, the quieter cousin, to swallow my pride and wait for it to pass. I remember thinking that middle school was going to be a fresh start, a time to finally be myself, at a much bigger school than Ashley and I had been at for elementary. Hopefully we wouldn't have that many classes together, and hopefully I could make my own friends separate from hers, have my own teachers who maybe wouldn't even know her. I had always been a diligent student, quietly doing my homework, studying for tests, and trying to keep my grades up. It wasn't about bragging, it was about pride in my own work. So when report cards came out for the first semester of 6th grade, I was thrilled to see straight A's across the board. I had earned every one of them. My parents were so happy they decided to invite Ashley's family and my grandma out to dinner. We went to a family-friendly restaurant, me carrying my report card with me, my parents smiling with pride. I sat at the table feeling a rare glow of happiness. I could almost forget Ashley existed for a moment. Almost. After we had ordered our food and had been delivered our drinks, my dad started to make a small toast, mentioning how I had studied and raising his glass to congratulate my success with the start of middle school. But in the midst of it, Ashley lurched backward, hand to her chest, looking frightened. I can't breathe, she cried, slipping off the side of her chair onto the floor beside her mom. Panic erupted immediately. My dad jumped up, calling the manager for water, and Aunt Claire fanned her with a menu. All eyes in the restaurant seemed to turn in our direction, and a woman came over from a nearby table. "I'm a nurse," she told us, reaching down to take Ashley's pulse. The toast, the recognition of my grades, was long gone. Everyone was fussing over Ashley as she suddenly wheezed back to life, or seemed to, and the entire restaurant gave a round of applause at her recovery. The nurse stayed beside her until the paramedics arrived, the scene of her being moved onto a gurney and trundled out becoming the memorable part of that evening. Dinner forgotten, the family moving to be at Claire's and Ashley's side at the hospital. But once there, the doctors failed to find anything wrong. The most frustrating part was how the adults and my classmates consistently enabled her. They seemed to forget that in spite of the distractions she enacted, she wasn't injured, she hadn't been threatened, her science project had in fact not been stolen. She was performing, and somehow I guess through years of practice and honing her craft, she was most often getting exactly what she wanted. It was exhausting. It was infuriating. By the end of middle school, I realized that straight A's, trophies, or accolades wouldn't shield me from her antics. They couldn't protect me from a cousin who was obsessed with stealing the spotlight. I had to learn to expect it, to prepare for it, and to endure it. But I still wondered if someday, somehow, I could finally have a victory that she couldn't ruin. High school brought new challenges and new opportunities, and for the first time, I found something I loved that Ashley couldn't immediately manipulate: debate. I discovered it during freshman year, a club that focused on strategy and quick thinking, on logic and evidence. I loved the thrill of constructing arguments, responding on the fly, and standing in front of a group with confidence. This was something Ashley couldn't do. It was my wheelhouse, but definitely not hers. Debate was mine, or so I thought. By junior year, I had advanced to the state-level competition. I worked for weeks preparing speeches, researching evidence, preparing rebuttals with my teammates who were also going to the competition. This was the culmination of countless hours of work, a moment where my skills could truly shine. The day of the finals arrived. I was nervous, excited, but determined. My parents had driven me to the auditorium, my team waiting to support me backstage. Ashley and her parents weren't even at the event. It was hours away from our home, and they hadn't wanted to make the drive. I felt infinitely more confident standing on that stage, facing my opponent without Ashley there. Knowing she was a few counties away was a balm to my soul, and it no doubt contributed to my confidence and my performance. I was well prepared, and my opponent never mounted a challenge to my arguments that I hadn't already prepared for when practicing against my teammates. In the end, I won my debate, and my team overall placed first in the state. My parents clapped in the audience. I grinned on stage. And for once, I had that moment for myself. I'm grateful that I had that in front of nearly all strangers, because I wasn't going to get that moment back at my own school. The debate team was supposed to go up on stage briefly at a school assembly the following week to acknowledge our first place win, and the team had decided I should hold the trophy. I had it in my hands, my heart pounding, lined up with my teammates, waiting for the principal to gesture for us to come up on stage, and then the fire alarm blared. Red lights flashed, people groaned, got up, headed toward the exits. The room filled with noise from voices beneath the shrill mechanical wail. I looked around, temporarily frozen, as students filed past me, teachers ushering them out. Later I learned that Ashley had claimed she smelled smoke. No fire, no evidence, just her assertion. The entire auditorium evacuated, my moment ruined, the moment I had and my teammates had all worked for weeks. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I wanted to shake her until she admitted she did it on purpose. But there was no point. Ashley had a talent for making chaos look like innocence. I thought for sure this was a serious offense, pulling a fire alarm for no reason, but apparently they believed the story she told them. I just wanted to keep everyone safe, a friend told me she had said to the vice principal, with actual tears spilling down her cheeks. In the end, nothing happened to her. That night in my bedroom, I realized that my victories could never be entirely mine. Every achievement was subject to her interference. She didn't just want attention, she wanted control. She wanted to make sure that if anyone else was noticed, she would be there to distort it, overshadow it, and turn it into a story about her. And it wasn't lost on me that the more important my accomplishments were, the more intense her interference became. For her, nothing was off limits. My grades, my hobbies, my performances, they all became battlegrounds for her need for attention. The more public the event, the more elaborate her manipulations. I looked forward to college. Then I could surely, finally be free. I didn't tell Ashley where I was applying, not wanting her to apply to the same places. I had very good grades, decent test scores, and could have applied out of state, but I wanted to stay not far from home. So the college I chose was not a super competitive one, but it was the one I felt most comfortable traveling to. When I got my acceptance letter, at least half my happiness involved leaving Ashley behind. So imagine the scene when I came home from school soon after, to my mom and Aunt Claire in the kitchen, both smiling, thrilled to tell me that Ashley had been accepted into the same university. My mom must have told Aunt Claire where my applications were going, and Ashley must have sent hers to the same ones. I should have applied to the hardest schools to get into, just so I could leave her behind, but it was too late for that now. I just stared at them both, unsmiling, until my mom said, "What's wrong with you? Aren't you glad to have your cousin at the same school?" I just left the room. From the earliest weeks at college, Ashley appeared in my dorm, in my classes, and even tried to join my informal study groups. Her presence was immediate and exhausting. She hadn't changed her tactics, only amplified them if anything. Early on, she attempted the classic routines that had worked so reliably in the past. During lectures, she would raise her hand and interrupt professors with elaborate questions or complaints, drawing the attention away from the lesson. In group projects, she would claim credit for my contributions or suggest that my ideas had actually been hers. Even social gatherings weren't safe. She seemed determined to dominate every conversation, every joke, every shared anecdote. For the first time, however, her methods didn't work as well as before. Professors were more discerning, peers were less easily manipulated, and the adult supervision she relied on in high school was gone. Her mom and my mom were not there. Her dramatic fainting spells were met with skepticism. Her claims of unfair treatment were questioned, and her attempts to monopolize attention were often met with polite but firm pushback. Slowly, the boundaries that had always been pliable in her favor began to solidify against her. I watched her struggle in a way I had never seen before. She wasn't prepared for the rigors of university academics. The careful planning and diligent work that had always been my forte now became a clear contrast to her lack of preparation. She missed assignments, failed to meet deadlines, and her attempts to insert herself into academic success were repeatedly shut down. For the first time, I felt a mixture of relief and vindication that lasted. The rules of the game had changed, and they didn't bend to her anymore. I threw myself into focusing on my studies. My confidence grew, bolstered by my own efforts, rather than by competing for attention against her. For once I could enjoy accomplishments that were entirely mine, my grades, my projects, my presentations, and my friends in the dorm who did not even know Ashley through my careful design. By the second semester, the reality of her situation was unavoidable. Her academic performance was slipping. The relentless pursuit of attention that had defined her entire life was hitting a wall, one that she couldn't simply maneuver around. The strategies she had relied upon to get attention and certain allowances in high school, mostly drama and theatrics, did nothing to protect her grades here. Meanwhile, I was finally beginning to thrive, academically, socially, and personally, with a growing sense of relief that I could operate in a world where her tricks no longer dictated my experience. By the end of the year, Ashley was forced to make a choice. She dropped out of university entirely, leaving behind the dreams of following me and taking the spotlight by storm. Today, Ashley works as a cashier for a supermarket chain in our hometown. I occasionally see her when home for a weekend, a holiday, or on longer visits in the summer. It's obvious she still craves attention, but the environment doesn't reward her the way it once did. She can no longer manipulate the system to her advantage. And for the first time, I feel free to enjoy the successes and nice moments that are my own, without fear of a shadow lurking to steal them. I should never have had my experiences overshadowed and manipulated by her, but if anything, that makes every goal achieved that much sweeter for me today. I can finally trust that my achievements and celebrations will actually be my own. That my life will actually be my own. I wish her well, but I feel pretty good about my life without her.
Thank you for joining me for this story. If you enjoyed this reading, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Leave us a comment and let us know what kind of story you'd like to hear next. This has been Tales by Rachel, where we breathe life into every story.